I'm James Rule. Welcome to the Lonely Leader podcast, where we help existing and aspiring leaders find clarity, build resilience, drive performance, and enhance fulfillment. Communication, productivity and presence, health and energy. They are the three biggest areas of focus that I find my time is taken up coaching and mentoring senior leaders and their wider teams all around the world. And today I want to focus in on those areas because I'm curious if you are struggling with them as well. One of the questions I often get asked is, so what areas are you working on? What comes to your door as a high performance leadership coach from the clients that you work with? And these three themes unite everybody. I work with chief executives, I work with solo entrepreneurs, I work in the education sector, the public sector, the private sector, I work in countries all around the world. It doesn't matter where we are, these challenges permeate all sectors, all cultures, all roles. And that's why I thought it'd be important just to touch on them today, because the premise of this episode ties right into the heart of the raison d'etre for the Lonely Leader brand. You are not alone. Leadership is not designed to be isolating and lonely. And all of my work through this podcast, through the coaching, the training courses, and the mentorship that I engage in is designed to help people recognize that you are rarely struggling with a challenge that somebody else isn't currently struggling with as well, or indeed has struggled with previously and found solutions. And so part of the pleasure and the privilege of what I do is, yes, I can bring an authentic perspective and solution-orientated mindset to address some of these areas, but I also get to keep enhancing my delivery, my knowledge base, based on the interactions with leaders that I work with. I get to see what works, what doesn't work, and refine my work accordingly. And so in the spirit of breaking down that sense of loneliness and isolation, today's episode's a little bit different. I'm not going to dive as deeply as I normally do into the tactical, specific takeaways. That being said, there are links in the show notes to episodes on communication, presence, productivity, health, well-being, recovery. There are a number of places that you can go to within the archive to get that tactical takeaway. What today's about is highlighting the most common problems that I am engaged with to give you a degree of comfort that you are genuinely not alone in dealing with them and wrestling with them on a day-to-day basis. And also then just to give you a bit of a sense check as to the programs and the way that we attack those issues and support leaders moving through and past the challenges that those issues are presenting them. Now, as I dive into these subjects, I just want to revisit something I've talked about in previous episodes. I believe we are all leaders. This is not a podcast talking solely to the CEOs and the COOs of big FTSE 100 businesses. This is talking to you, wherever you are on your leadership journey. You might be at the very top of your organizational hierarchy, or you may be much lower down. That is immaterial to me. We are all leaders. If you have one person reported into you, then you are a leader. If you are a parent, you are a leader. You are leading your children through their childhood. If you have one follower following you on LinkedIn or any social media channel, you have influence and you are leading people and their behaviors. So yes, absolutely, these issues pertain to the very top of the organizational structure, the C-suite executives, but equally, I will reinforce to you that the same challenges are just as present and just as disruptive to the team leader, to the manager, to the lower level, if you will, level of seniority. So for me, it's any and all leaders that I am talking to, and you're very welcome in this Lonely Leader community that we are building. So my reflections begin with communication. Now, you'll have heard me say that when communication is handled well by a leader and by a team, it is an X factor for sustaining high performance. It builds resilience, it drives performance. And equally, when communication is handled poorly by a leader, that negative communication style, negative communication processes ripple out across the team, completely compromises performance, disempowers people's mindset, erodes resilience. So it's absolutely imperative to get it right. What are some of the challenges I see? One, huge inefficiencies, meetings running on far too long, people going off on tangents, and what should take half an hour takes an hour, what should take an hour takes 2 hours. That's the first thing I want to reflect on. Are you locked in inefficient meetings? Are you being dragged into meetings you don't feel you should be in? Are you struggling to add value to certain meetings or struggling to derive value? That value issue is so important. You haven't got enough time to waste being trapped in meetings that you don't believe you should be in. What about alpha personalities? Have you ever struggled with an alpha personality dominating the floor, preventing that true psychological safety that everybody feels they can contribute without fear of criticism or ridicule? How effective are you at giving and taking feedback? Do people take offense? Do people's egos come to the fore? Do people meet criticism with aggression? Or have you got an environment where people can give and take feedback regularly without taking offense because they know it's how we're going to build a better business, a better product, and overall how we're going to drive everybody's performance? As the theme of this episode reminds us, you are not alone. So many of the leaders I am working with are struggling, being dragged into meetings they don't feel they need to be in, seeing the meetings they are in not running as efficiently as they'd like, not everybody contributing, alpha personalities taking things off on tangents, people throwing the proverbial grenade into the middle of the meeting without really staying in that solution mindset that's essential to find resolution. How about the accountability that comes out from your communication? Does everybody step up, shoulder their share of the burden? Or are there some of those sloping shoulder tendencies, people who are deliberately avoiding really taking ownership and accountability of their individual performance and their role in driving a higher performing business? These are the themes that come through regularly, and they're easy to fix, and our programs are designed to fix it. But it takes a willingness from the leader, and it takes a commitment from their wider team to build an environment where everybody's time is respected, communication runs efficiently, there is full accountability and ownership, and we're in an environment where we can learn from our success, but we can also equally learn from our failings, and we can give and take feedback without taking it personally and without allowing our ego to derail the feedback process. The next core area of focus that takes up so much of my coaching and mentoring time, I've branded productivity and presence. We are more digitally connected than we've ever been, and arguably we're more inefficient than we've ever been. The constant bombardment of notifications, emails, messages, you know them, you're surrounded by them, but they are having an unbelievably negative impact on our ability to truly get into the deepest levels of concentration to bring to the fore the best version of you, both professionally and personally, and to ensure you lead with the highest level of impact. So there are a whole myriad of ways that we help people with their productivity and with their presence, because on an almost daily basis, people are expressing their frustration and their stress that they struggle to be present. They struggle to truly lock in on the meeting or the individual they're working with, or equally to be truly present with the people they love and care about in those personal relationships. Our connectivity has bled into all areas of our life, and we need discipline, habits, and strategies to ensure that we can retain our presence and that we can find the highest level of performance. If we don't, then we're just going to burn ourselves out. We're going to run round and round in ever decreasing circles, trying to multitask, trying to be all things to all men and women, and it's just an absolute fallacy. Multitasking is a fallacy. Our productivity is within our control, and we've really got to look at our daily routines, the disciplines and the habits, and where we allow ourselves to give our time, our energy, and our mental bandwidth. So a huge amount of what we do is about helping people to build those empowering, proactive morning routines, those evening routines that help facilitate true recovery, to enhance your level of sleep, to clear out stress. Because as I always say, working in professional sport for as long as I did, I'm acutely aware that elite men and women in any athletic endeavor compete and train at high intensity, but they follow that with regular, structured, and in many cases, mandated recovery. And so many executives that I see are struggling, moving at 100 miles an hour and not thinking about their recovery. And that takes me straight into the third point, health and energy. And under that, I talk about physical health, our physical bodies, and mental health. Pretty much every single individual I talk to and work with and coach and mentor expresses at some point their frustration at how their inability to truly get a handle on the pressures of their professional role is compromising their energy at best, the way they show up professionally and personally, and then more significantly, how that then transpires into impact on their physical health, their weight, the way they sleep, the way they move, their appearance, and indeed their mental energy, their resilience, their ability to keep processing and moving through those never-ending streams of challenges and stress points that every leader must deal with. If we don't protect our physical and mental energy and our physical and mental health, then in effect, we are stepping into those challenges with one hand tied behind our back, and then we're going to end up tying the other hand behind our back because we're not robots. We need energy, health, vitality to fuel our resilience, to fuel our cognitive abilities to process the challenges that we are being presented with. So it is not a nice to have to reflect on our health and energy. It's an absolute foundational necessity of high performance. Naturally, I'm curious to hear from you about whether these themes resonate. Are you struggling with all those nuanced facets of communication I touched on? Do you feel that you're just burning your own personal money, company money, watching some of these inefficient meetings and inefficient communication structures struggle and labor forward day to day? Are you as productive as you need to be? Do you get through that to-do list with a ruthless efficiency? Do your team deliver consistently high levels of productivity and performance? Or do you feel that there is potential in you and your wider team that is not being realized? How about your physical and mental energy? Is it improving year on year, or is it steadily declining? Do you feel that you have the mental and physical energy to show up both professionally and personally and bring the best version of you consistently? If the answer is yes to all of that and that you've got everything in place, then I definitely want to hear from you because I can learn from you. But if you, like the vast majority of the people I'm engaging with, are brutally honest, you'll probably find yourself saying, look, I have good days, bad days, some weeks, periods, quarters are better than others, but as a consistent theme, these areas are more challenging than I want them to be. And that's absolutely fine to admit. That doesn't mean you're failing as a leader. It means you've got the awareness and the clarity to reflect on where are you and where do you want to be. And if I talk about themes of the lonely leader, establishing clarity is right at the core of everything we do. It's a bit like using a GPS system when you drive your car. You have to have a start point and you have to have an end point. If you haven't got clarity on those two things, you cannot build a route. Now, forgive my somewhat simplistic analogy, but apply that to your own professional life and your own personal life. If you are just moving at 100 miles an hour, living reactively without any proactive thought and intent into shaping the clarity, how can you truly realize the dreams and the level of performance that you aspire to? So we spend a huge amount of time on the clarity work. We're then looking at a holistic approach to high performance. Now, these challenges we're talking about here, you can well argue, and justifiably so, that these have been around since time began. All leaders have struggled with communication. All leaders have struggled with managing their productivity and their performance. And indeed, the vast majority have struggled with health and energy. And you'd be right to a degree. Where I believe we are coming at things from a slightly different perspective is we believe on helping individuals step back as part of that clarity piece and take a holistic overview of high performance. It's very easy to just think solely of our professional role when we think of professional performance, but that is redundant thinking in my point of view. Because if I use the analogy that your physical and mental health is not where you want it to be, your Engagement and presence with your partner, with your husband or your wife and your children is not where you want it to be. If you do not have any time to contact and connect with your friends, if you never have time or space to engage in a hobby or a passion that is important to you, if you do not find the time to be able to connect and participate in your wider community in which you live, if you do not see any members or speak to members of your extended family, and we bleed all of this together and then expect ourselves, despite all those challenges in our ecosystem of life, to be able to perform at the highest level and lead with the highest level of impact, then we're completely deluded. And it isn't acceptable anymore to say all of that stuff just needs to fit into the weekend. People used to talk about work-life balance. Work-life balance doesn't exist. Nothing's ever in balance. What we're trying to find is work-life integration, an ability to blend everything together with higher areas of focus and higher priorities at any given point than others, but with an objective that we're going to try and find the highest level of performance in every facet of our life. And that is the core focus and the raison d'etre of the lonely leader. Because if we get that right, to use my example, your physical and mental health is improving, your capacity to deal with stress is improving, your resilience is on the increase, you're fully engaged with friends and family, you have time to contribute in your wider community, you do find the time to speak and check in with friends, you have some time built into your calendar to engage in a hobby or a passion that is special to you, and then you take all of that positivity and that connectivity and bring yourself back into your professional role. I guarantee, and that's a strong statement, but I absolutely stand behind it, I guarantee that when you step over the threshold of work in your professional role, when we get all of those holistic areas firing, you will have a high level of resilience, a high level of energy, a better propensity for dealing with stress, and you will lead with a higher level of impact, and you will positively impact your wider team to copy and replicate your actions and words, so you will improve as an individual leader and your team will improve. So as you can probably sense from my passion as I'm walking through this, a big part of how we position ourselves is authenticity. I do not stand in the ivory tower preaching theoretical rhetoric that you could get in any textbook or you could pick up on the internet. I draw upon lived life experience. I openly dive into, within my coaching and training, the challenges I encountered as a leader, collapsing with pneumonia as a consequence of working 15-hour days for a relentless period of time. I look back and I take the learnings from my complete lack of focus on recovery and clearing out that physical and mental stress, and I apply it to my coaching. I talk about where my communication style evolved and how I learned through those many years of being a CEO to develop the communication strategies that brought teams together and allowed us to enhance the level of resilience. And not only am I bringing the authenticity from my lived life experience, but we also harness the lived life experience of the clients we work with. As I said at the start of this episode, you're not interested in the theoretical rhetoric. You want practical actions. You want to know that these systems can help you and can help your team. And every day is a learning process where we get to download the feedback from high-performing teams in a variety of sectors and cultures and build that into our teaching, build that into our training, our coaching, and our mentorship. So how do we actually bring all of this to life? Well, there's 2 or 3 core things to reflect on from the Lonely Leader. First and foremost is our Creating Unshakable Resilience program. That is a light touch program delivered face-to-face or virtually, generally over 3 circa 90-minute sessions virtually, and the better part of a day is a bit more interactive when you're doing it face-to-face. But that gives us a top-line overview on a number of areas that will enhance and directly address some of these communication issues, these productivity and presence issues, and certainly to improve the health and wider well-being of you as an individual and your wider team. Then we've got the Leadership Accelerator. Now, the Leadership Accelerator is my condensed leadership guide built over 20 plus years in high performance environments, both in my CEO roles, also as a former professional rugby player, but complemented and developed and iterated on an almost weekly basis with all the leaders we work with. So this, again, can be delivered virtually or small groups. We bring people together and we seek to truly enhance and accelerate their leadership knowledge, insights, and impact. And the third strand is that bespoke high-performance executive coaching. It can come as a follow-up to the Creating Unshakable Resilience or the Leadership Accelerator, or it can be a standalone where we ensure that we can get to the nub of the very issues causing you the most challenge and stress and develop a plan, going back to that clarity point, a roadmap that allows you to overcome and reach the destination that you want to. And my final point will be that we build everything around the 3 M's: mindset, methodology, and momentum. Everything's interchangeable. You could have the greatest, most empowered mindset that's ever been created, but if you don't have the methodology, the specific tactics and strategies to drive high performance, you're never going to build the momentum that you wish to. And equally, you may be the most highly trained, insightful individual with every bit of knowledge possible in terms of methodology, but because you have issues causing you to have a completely disempowered mindset, you equally won't be able to generate the momentum that you want to generate. So it's our job to blend the work that enhances mindset with a deep, rich set of content around methodology, tools, tactics, and strategies to build a momentum that takes you to the highest level of performance and fulfillment in all aspects of your life, finishing on that holistic overview, which is so integral, so important, that we want you to find the highest level of performance in your professional role, but equally as a son, as a daughter, as a sibling, as a husband, as a wife, as a parent, as a friend. We want you to find that high level of fulfillment, because it might sound a little bit cheesy, but life is not a dress rehearsal. We get one crack at this. So let's try and find the highest level of fulfillment in every facet of our lives. Now, I hope this overview has been helpful. As I said at the start, I wanted to lay out those communication, productivity, presence, health and energy agenda items to make you realize that if you are struggling with them, you are not alone. And I also wanted to answer some of the questions that are coming back from the community. Well, how exactly do you step into this space? And that is, in essence, through the Creating Unshakable Resilience, the Leadership Accelerator programs, or the bespoke executive high performance coaching. I would love to hear your feedback. Please continue to share the challenges that you're dealing with, because that's what helps us shape the content. And if you would like to explore how to get involved with some of these programs and how they might relate to you individually or your wider organization, then please reach out at the contact details within the show notes. If the content of these episodes is resonating and you're enjoying it, then please do take a moment to give it a star rating or to consider writing a review. It certainly helps the algorithms. It certainly pushes this content to a wider audience, and that helps us fulfill the mission of helping as many people drive their personal and professional performance to a level that gives them an unparalleled level of fulfillment. So if you can take a moment to do that, I'll be very grateful indeed. Thanks for listening to the Lonely Leader podcast. I'd be very grateful if you could share and follow if the content resonates. And if you're looking for additional free resource to support your continued growth and development, then please do check out our social media and website details in the show notes. Remember, quality leadership on the outside must always start within.